Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. XRP is at the center of everything that Ripple does, everything that they consider before making any big moves. And we got more proof of that as Ripple's Swell conference wrapped up just yesterday. And it's just so fascinating to see how things unfold. There's like so many things that have been unfolding. We in the XRP community have been talking about the possibility of this for over the last decade. Here we are 10 years later. And people that knew about XRP before I'd even heard it exists, they've proven to be correct. And I highlighted some of that in an earlier video. I'm not going to rehash all that, but I still am just sitting here looking at all this and these news developments and seeing vindication. There's so many firms that have just plowed a ridiculous amount of money into Ripple, the company, as an investment. And this is why back in 2017, when I jumped into crypto and learned about XRP, I saw a bunch of toxic Bitcoin maximalists saying that XRP's it's a scam coin. And Ripple's just going to dump on your heads. Well, that was very obviously wrong. Ripple has only sold a tiny percentage of a global volume, resulting in an increase in the circulating supply that is so minimal that it might as well not exist. In fact, there have been years where the increase in circulating supply has been less than Bitcoin's increase in circulating supply from proof of work mining. And so, obviously, having Ripple in the XRP ecosystem is a major benefit. They are in very material ways increasing the actual utility of XRP, and that's what matters. And so we get this headline: Ripple raises $500 million at $40 billion valuation in Fortress-led round. But before going further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a financial background of any kind. I'm not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. Now, just as a reminder here, on October 24th, there was a post from Ripple introducing Ripple Prime. So, of course, Ripple had bought out prime brokerage firm Hidden Road for $1.25 billion, and they're announcing that it had been renamed. It has now launched. And they're actually working to transition the $3 trillion in annual flows that company already had. They're working on transferring that to settle on the XRP ledger. They have publicly stated that's not my speculation, and that is very real utility. And I've talked about that extensively on this channel and the mechanics of it. Now, look at what Brad Garlinghouse said at the time. He said, with today's close of Hidden Road, now Ripple Prime, Ripple has announced 5 major acquisitions in about 2 years. G Treasury last week, Rail in August, Standard Custody in 2024, Medico in 2023. As we continue to build solutions towards enabling an Internet of Value, and this is the key part, I'm reminding you all that XRP sits at the center of everything Ripple does. Lock in. Spot on. And so that's why anybody that's spoken about the idea of, Ripple no longer being interested in XRP because they launched RLUSD or they're doing all this other stuff. What ridiculous, unreasonable perspective that is. Because if XRP doesn't continue to get adopted, Ripple has the most to lose. And you think because reasons they no longer care? Obviously, it's been the case that XRP is at the center of everything that they think about. And now we see that, oh my God, like some of the biggest names in crypto and traditional like investing, traditional finance in general, all getting into the world of Ripple and also XRP and the XRP ledger. So that's where you get this headline. Ripple raises $500 million at $40 billion valuation in Fortress-led round. Piece reads as follows. Ripple has raised $500 million in a new strategic investment round led by Fortress Investment Group and Citadel Securities, valuing the crypto firm at $40 billion. That's ridiculous. I just had a vision of Dr. Evil with his little pinky up pop in my head right there. $40 billion. That's a lot of money, man. That's a high valuation right there. Other participants included Pantera Capital, Galaxy Digital, Brevin Howard, and Marshall Weiss. This investment reflects both Ripple's incredible momentum and further validation of the market opportunity we're aggressively pursuing by some of the most trusted financial institutions in the world, said Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple CEO. We started in 2012 with one use case, payments, and have expanded that success into custody, stablecoins, prime brokerage, and corporate treasury, leveraging digital assets like XRP. Today, Ripple stands as the partner for institutions looking to access crypto and blockchain, end quote. Yeah, so that's obviously true. And I noticed years ago, and I had talked about it at the time, I was like, hey guys, Brad Garlinghouse is pitching the company a little bit different now. It's not just about, hey, we're a fintech company starting up and we do foreign exchange transactions with the XRP. That's not the thing that he's saying. Anyway, not that he doesn't sound like that. That's not the pitch anymore. It's about enterprise solutions for firms that do just all things crypto. And all of this is great for XRP. A lot of it very directly, some of it indirectly. It's like even if you're just talking about custody, that's another thing that can onboard crypto in general, but that's great for XRP, like a bigger crypto pie. That's great for XRP because it's found success to this point, obviously. But then if you're talking about stable coins, yeah, RLUSD, well, on the XRP blockchain, that requires XRP. That right there increased XRP utility, absolutely. The prime brokerage firm, Hidden Road, now known as Ripple Prime, yeah, absolutely massively increased actual XRP utility because they're moving those transactions to the XRP ledger. It picks up in efficiency. In transactions, I mean, obviously, as you well know, I don't need to tell you guys, they're so cheap they might as well be free. So the XRP ledger just made sense for a bunch of reasons. It's very clear. It's very clear that they have XRP at the center of everything that they're doing. Piece continues. The deal comes on the heels of Ripple's recent $1 billion tender offer at the same valuation. This latest funding is structured as new common equity and expands Ripple's investor base to include some of the biggest names in finance, said the company. And so here is Brad Garlinghouse's post about this. And so he's doubling down on this idea that, yeah, XRP is the foundation of this. And so he wrote in this post just yesterday, as the news broke, 2025, without a doubt, has been an incredible year for Ripple and a record year for crypto as a whole. Although we have a couple of months left, this announcement feels like the cherry on top of a mountain of good news. And I'll just pause to say here, and this frequently pops in my head when I'm seeing these great headlines that we've seen throughout 2025, is this is the exact opposite of what we as XRP holders have had to put up with over most of the last half a decade. The last year's just been incredible as an XRP holder. The best period to be an XRP holder in history so far as I'm concerned for a ton of reasons. But before that damn SEC lawsuit dragging things down, making it so that, developments like this sure as hell were never going to happen in the United States. But now that that's over, XRP's got legal clarity. For the first time in history, the United States is pro-crypto, the largest capital market on the entire damn planet. That's great for you even if you don't live in the United States. This is great. Yeah, cherry on top, absolutely. Total vindication for all of us as XRP holders. It's very obvious we picked the winner here, I would say. And XRP, again, it's at the core of all of this. I want to stress that point. It very obviously is the case. Having Ripple in our corner, there's an overlap in interest. It's fantastic. And so he says, today we announced a $500 million investment in Ripple from Fortress Investment Group, Citi, at Citi Securities. So that's the official, Citadel Securities, Pantera Capital, and Galaxy, Brevin Howard, and Marshall Wace, at a $40 billion valuation. Now check this out. This is the important part. And he's doubling down. He's making sure that everybody knows, if you're an XRP holder, yes, absolutely XRP is at the core. He says, this investment isn't just validation of Ripple's growth strategy and business built on the foundation of XRP, but also a clear bet on what the future of crypto will look like. I'm very proud of what we built and all that's to come. And there you go, folks. Built on the foundation of XRP. Spot on, abso-freaking-lutely. You'll love to see it. That is the case, and that will always be the case because it's an incentive structure. They hold so much XRP. Of course, they want it to do well, and they are doing things that materially matter. And so there's this post from Dan Moorhead. He's the founder of Pantera Capital, and I believe they were the first hedge fund in the United States to offer Bitcoin back in 2013, and he's always been pro XRP. And so he had something to say about this too. He reposted Brad's message and he said, we're very excited to participate in Ripple's $500 million strategic round alongside names like Fortress Investment Group and Citadel Securities. It's been a long and exciting journey since we first invested in Ripple out of Venture Fund 1, the very first blockchain venture investment by Pantera. Brad Garlinghouse attended our 2015 summit, a small gathering at my home in Lake Tahoe, with OGs like Jesse Powell, and he's the co-founder of Kraken, cryptocurrency exchange. Also, Eric Voorhees, He's famous, well, for a number of things, including the fact that he created cryptocurrency exchange Shapeshift, which, fun fact, happens to be an exchange that I used to get my first XRP ever. I transferred something, I guess probably from Coinbase using Shapeshift, and then it landed in GateHub, I believe is how I did it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, just interesting. He was there at the beginning of all this. And also Gavin Andreessen. He says, 10 years later, Brad and I reconvened at Pantera Blockchain Summit 2025 at the Plaza in NYC. We reminisced about the journey and where Ripple is heading. And I think that's pretty damn cool. And Dan Morehead, he's always seen the big picture as well. In fact, take a look at this article from August 8th of 2020 from the Daily Hodl. It's titled, XRP will be one of the few crypto assets to survive, says Pantera CEO. Here's why. So they're talking about Dan Morehead here, the guy that I just read that post from. And I'm not going to read this whole article, but I just wanted to point out he gets it. And he said, again, this is 5 years ago. This is a quote from him. I see a world where we have 8 or 10 really important blockchains 10 years from now, and XRP is going to be one of them. Okay, and again, that was 5 years ago. And directionally, we're going in such a way that this should be the end result. And so whether it's 8 or 10 or 15 or 20 or some bigger number, whatever it ends up being, the idea here that's important is that XRP will be one of them. And he's been right about that. How could you possibly think that the utility for XRP is just going to decrease? This is useful stuff. And once technology is in place, it's hard to supplant it. And you know what also matters? That XRP has been tried and tested for over a frickin' decade, because that's something you cannot program into a new blockchain. You just can't. The fact that it's existed and we know it's trustworthy and it actually functions and it can't be hacked, that actually matters. So it's cool. And so here's another quote from him too. I don't have the view a lot of people do in our space. Like there's only one and only true heaven, and it has to be whatever it is, either Ether or Bitcoin or whatever it is. They do different things, and it's kind of like in the early 90s being a Yahoo maximalist. Yeah, Yahoo is good, but there were 30 really important companies, and a portfolio should have had a little bit of all those. And that's the way I feel about cryptocurrencies. Each of the 8 or 10 that are going to exist in 10 years are going to do its own thing. And so there you go. This is the people that find success in crypto are the people who are not toxic maximalists. The people that get this, it's a common sense way to think about this. They are not toxic maximalists. He's one of the people that very obviously gets it, and you love to see it. There's also this post from John Deaton commenting on the story. He said, 3 years ago, I said Brad Garlinghouse was arguably the best CEO in crypto. Some folks disagreed. Ripple's latest valuation, evidenced by the $500 million investment from Citadel and Fortress, is now at $40 billion. I believe my comment has aged well. Spot on, Attorney Deaton, and you helped to ensure that this was possible. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.